Hello there, and welcome to a map review. We're with Monolithic Bacon today. Hello, Bacon.
Hello.
This chap's very well experienced when it comes to designing Company of Heroes 2 maps, aren't you, Bacon?
I've been doing it long enough, I hope so.
Give us a quick spiel. What have you done, and who are you?
Oh God. Well, let's start with who I am. My real name's Will. I've been creating maps for Company of Heroes way, way back in Company of Heroes 1. Worked for loads of mods like the Great War,
Ooh, I
and the
liked
Eastern
that one.
Front.
Oh, and that one. Two very good mods, very well received at the time.
Yeah. And then as soon as the World Builder tools were released on Company of Heroes 2, I couldn't resist and came straight on over. And I've been filling my workshop ever since.
What successes have you had? Like, what maps will we have heard of that you've made?
Some very controversial ones and some not so controversial. Most of my maps that have been popular have been in the latest rotation, so maps like Elst and Caen. But I think the first one that was seen by players was Hill 400.
Yes, I remember very well. That was used in, I believe, the SNF 5 All-Star game, or possibly OCF All-Star game.
Yeah, that's the one.
And yeah, that was a pretty nice map for as far as 4v4s go. It was pretty cool.
Yep.
Believe you've been involved in. Was it possibly Sittard?
Oh yes, now that's the least popular, I imagine.
Yes, that's where you lost your reputation, I think.
think that was a very brief lapse of communication between me and Relic.
Oh God, why? Go on, give us the filthy details.
I think it went. Please don't make this auto match. Please don't make this auto match. Please don't make this auto match. Oh, good, it's an auto match.
And it's got your name on it. Oh God,
Yeah.
that is pretty bad. Just so people know what the background noise is, it's my friend GB Pirate playing Shank Bulkhead on this map, and this map is currently in rotation, and that's Caen. So give us a brief overview of this map, Bacon.
All right. Caen was a bit of a proof of concept. I made it quite a long time ago, probably maybe about 18 months. And it was my attempt at making a competitive urban map, part of a scheme we had years ago now, was
Those
to try and make.
two
Sorry.
terms do come across as not mutually beneficial.
No.
You know, urban, competitive, Stalingrad, post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's exactly it. And we had a job with Relic to try and make Stalingrad as fixed as we could. And although we put loads of edits into Stalingrad itself, it never really saw the light of day, and the map was always going to be seen as a failure for competitive play. So this was purely a proof of concept to show that it can be done. And although it was met with a lot of skepticism because it's urban, hopefully some people agree that it's worked.
I actually think it's, as far as urban map goes, I like this one, and I wouldn't just be saying that. I wouldn't say anything if I disliked it, because obviously I'm polite. But if I like it, I'm going to tell you, and I do like it. I was pleasantly surprised having cast Zarok versus Fahu, and now an 8-minute game in it. The ebb and flow of battle was very, very good. It's never going to be, in my opinion, as good as a map like Famenville, but we're all bored of Famenville, you know? We want a little bit of variety, and I
Yeah.
think that's what this map starts to offer. So if we were just to give a very quick a rotational overview of the map, starting in the southern sector and working our way around. I'm just going to disable Steam Community in-game. Hang on a second, sorry about this
That's
everybody.
all right.
There we go. So let's go from the southern base section and have a look aesthetically. You walk us through Caen.
Sure. So, as you go around the border clockwise around the edge of the map, you've got what I would call the safe points. It's the same for both of the teams in the north and south, but as you go clockwise around the map, you've got two very safe points which are the furthest away from the battle. They're based in small courtyards. There's lots of cover and shot blocking here, and basically they stay out of combat for most of the game.
Just to
Um,
check my understanding of maps, I see these as the token gesture you give to a player that is losing. They've been cut off. They're allowed, however, 2 strategic points just to keep them going. Am I right in
yeah,
thinking that?
yeah, exactly that. The point closest to your own HQ is probably the hardest to take in the entire game. And the one a little bit further out from that is still pretty hard, but it keeps that little flow of resources going. It's not vital really to take it.
So let's start talking about what's just after that, though. the strategic cutoff. Which
Yes.
so it's quite a large area for one point to take in this. If you can look at the map for people watching, it's this P here, and then the inverse of it there. So how do you go about making this area as balanced as you possibly can?
And this one has actually gone through a lot of iterations. When we got feedback from the community, these 2 points, the 2 major cutoffs, got a lot of work. For the most part, we've tried to make them as open as we can. It's still got some very blatant shot blocking, but as open as possible so that they can be contested and held just as equally as each other. But the most important thing we wanted to make sure is that there are as many routes into that point as possible.
So yeah, just looking at this southern one now, from the southern base sector, of course, we've got that archway bridge, or we could flank and vault possibly here. Of course, you go all the way around, but of course you could go through the square as well. So if you're looking at this now, it seems to be at least 6 entrants just to one cutoff. And I think that's what a map like Stalingrad, if I remember correctly, was missing. Its strategic points seem to have very funneled avenues of play. How about a little bit further out? The thing that is being cut off by the strategic point, of course, is fuel, and now we open ourselves up into the open area of the map. In the far west, we've got the fuel points, big, large craters. Is it your design, if you will, to give a token open area for the urban map to have?
Yeah, both of the very far corners are open areas. I wanted to try and make sure that the people who are more likely to play Austere and OKW have that advantage that usually comes with longer range open skirmishes. Urban maps, again, especially Stalingrad, suffered so much from being very close quarters that any Allied infantry usually had the advantage because of their close range weapons. But one thing that this map does that I've never really done before is to try and make this a little bit fairer. There's no negative cover at all.
Really? What did you have against negative cover? Because I've often thought of it as an interesting dynamic that punishes bad play.
I'd completely agree with you, and if you look at the rest of my catalogue, all of them have negative cover, usually in some pretty severe aspects. But with this one in particular, I wanted to try and avoid it because I think the open areas are open enough. And above anything, I wanted to make sure that mobility was something that you trusted to infantry first. Because I love the concept of having infantry being caught out on negative cover, but in an urban environment it didn't seem right to have Kubel wagons and Stuart tanks driving at 60 miles an hour through a ruined city.
So what about road bonuses then? Do all areas of this map gift road bonuses to vehicles?
Not once.
Not once?
Nope.
That's very interesting. So you've got 2 mechanics that are usually seen on I suppose more rural maps that are missing from this, but obviously instead we benefit from channeled avenue play. And so what would you say is the overall advantage of this map that it would have over a rural map?
Probably because of the amount of shot blocking. Close range infantry is always going to have a strength, but it plays so much to ambushes. So commanders that have camouflage abilities, for example, pack guns or AT guns that are able to lay low and wait, it's perfect for trapping vehicles that are too slow to retreat like they would along roadways. And it's great for luring infantry and vehicles into traps around corners with mines and demo charges that you wouldn't normally see in a very open map.
So, as an estimate, how long would it take to make a map as involved and as stunning, and as how long would it take?
The bare bones for this was about 20 hours.
Okay. So
but with the weeks of additions that just took maybe 20 minutes each. But that's about it. It's not a massive amount of time when you think about it.
Well, it's 30 hours in total, let's say, and I'm going to be honest, all the indirect time probably adds up to about 40. Would that be a good estimate?
Yeah, probably about that.
So you've invested all this time, you've blood, sweat and tears have gone into it, and would you say that your map is in the hands of the game's balance at this point? Because urban maps notoriously and classically Allied favoured because they tend to have a better range of units that don't require vision. For example, a
Yep.
lot of the backbone infantry tends to be easier to play with, and their maps classically need MGs, which do require a lot of vision. So do you feel a little bit helpless after you've made a map like this?
You do, but again, all you can really do is try and build a map that plays to the strengths of as many of the factions as possible. And when this was being redesigned, we were in the middle of the probably the worst issues with the USF mortar.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
So it saw a lot of abuse because of indirect fire, which this map is very good for. People who play mortars can hide them behind certain buildings, and it will be harder for them to be caught. But ambush play still came out nicely on top, and I was happy that it did. Saw more and more people trying to hide MGs and packs, even just around very close corners, so that infantry squads would run and be instantly suppressed, and then taken advantage of. And it worked nicely, but yes, you're very much at the mercy of the game's balance.
So we're in the community patch version of this. Sorry, the what's the best way to describe it? It's in the workshop version rather. That's the best way to say.
Yeah.
This is the version that isn't quite in rotation. What iterative changes have you made most recently?
The most recent changes, I think these ones might be live actually, is to move the munitions points so that they aren't in the safe territory areas anymore, because they used to be.
Ah, okay.
The munitions points used to be the second point away from the HQ clockwise around the map, and we've moved them next to the victory points on the edges. So it's really added a recycling motion, like a yin and yang shape to the map.
Would you have made this map the same way now, with Winter Balance patch coming out and the meta have changed in the past 18 months? Would you have done anything differently overall?
It's hard to say, because again, it was a proof of concept to show that it could be done. And I always have the inkling that maybe a few ruins could be taken out and replaced with just screen cover instead. But I feel so many of my other maps do exactly what all of Relic's maps do. Maps like Famenville, where it's nice and open, there's very clear areas where you need to take, there's very blatant cover in the right areas, and it just gets a little stale. And when you make as many maps as I do, you don't want every single one of them to be the same. You want one with a little bit of a twist.
I fully agree, and I think we've given good coverage to Caen now. I think a lot of people have seen Caen as it is in auto-match rotation, and I'm happy with the level of review we've given it. I'm just going to back out of the game. Without further ado then, I'm going to cut this recording off, and we're going to do a review of the Halber. So for everybody that's enjoyed Monolithic Bacon today, I'll be uploading this just before the weekend in London. Next week, you'll be able to hear mine and Monolithic Bacon's thoughts on the Halber. We're going to go through it in detail. So thank you for that, Monolithic, and
A pleasure.
goodbye for now. And I'll see you in a minute, but everybody else will see you in a week. Okay, right.
Doodles.